How does Old Forester 1924 stack up against other 10-year-old bourbons? Let's find out. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So recently, Old Forester released 1924, a 100 proof 10-year-old bourbon. And by all accounts, it's got the entire whiskey world up in arms. Some people think it's a great bottle, some think it's an absolute disappointment, and there's a lot of people caught in between. The main focus is that it's $115, which is a huge hike up in price from all the other Whiskey Row products. And it's kind of telling, 10 years old, that's not all that, unreasonable these days in terms of the market. But a lot of people are still confused, angry, satisfied. It's just divisive. So I wanted to take it, compare it to some other 10-year-old bourbons today, and see how it stacks up. So the contenders coming up against it are Remus Repeal VII. This is predominantly around 10 years old, what's in this blend. There is a little bit, I think it's like 6% of a 16-year-old whiskey, and there's a couple that are more like 9 years old, but it all averages out to around 10 years old. It's also similar price point, around $100, so that'll be telling, and then the proof point is 100 here. So right on par with Old Forester. Then we've got a very noticeable and well-known bottle, Henry McKenna 10. This is 100 proof because it's bottled in bond. Available and becoming more available around me, at least. Let me know in the comments below if you've been seeing this more, for around $65 to $70. And then we've got the lower proof option here. I know that this, might not stand up as much because it's 90 proof, but it's Eagle Rare. And you gotta have it in any 10-year-old battle, right? It's so full of like oak and grape and interesting notes that everybody knows this is a classic 10-year-old bottle from Buffalo Trace. And MSRP here, only around 35 to 40 bucks. You'll probably see it marked up beyond that a lot of the time, but just in terms of the stats, it deserves to be in this blind, and we got to see how it stacks up. But the main contender here, the main question is, where does Old Forester 1924 fall in line? So let me set up the full blind here, and we'll dive in and we'll find out. All right, everybody, we've got the full blind set up now. We're gonna work our way from your left to right, and that is gonna make this glass A, and then all the way down here on the far right is gonna be glass D. So let's dive in on the nose with glass A and find out where Old Forester stacks up and what the best 10-year-old product there is. Okay. Nice vanilla and brown sugar kind of notes here. Maybe a little maple syrup kind of thing going on, but it's pungent too. There's kind of a singeing, punchy quality. Maybe a little bit of like a apple cider vinegar, or yeah, something like that. A crisp apple, but it's not ethanol forward, but it's got a little singiness. But then it's got good oak too. Okay, maybe a bright red fruit there too, like a raspberry. That's pretty dang good. Enjoying that nose on glass A quite a bit. All right, let's go into glass B. Okay, so this one you gotta dig a little bit more. It's not in your face. There's more of a subtle brown sugar and vanilla kind of thing going on. Nice caramel and butterscotch, but they're deep in there, and this one is not jumping out of the glass. Yeah, nice dusting of light brown sugar. Some spice, some oak and spice starting to simmer up. Okay, that's pretty solid, but compared to glass A, it's much more muted. You gotta dig a lot more on glass B. All right, let's go to glass C on the nose. Ooh, whoa, totally different. It's got more like of a citrus quality. Yeah, kind of an orange, citrus and honey. Some oak, cherry. More fruits and citrus for sure. Little touch of like a cinnamon heat, but not much. Strong vanilla, yeah. This is like vanilla, cherry, and then those citrus notes. Okay, nice. And then last but not least, glass D. Okay. This one's like dense and cool notes to it. mixed with light, bright fruits. So like kind of a bright cherry grape thing. This one's more subtle too. It's kind of like Glass B where you got to dig a little bit more to get into it. But kind of like a cool cherry juice, grape juice, and oak note to that one. And then a nice kind of layer of vanilla as well. All right, all very solid. I would say definitely Glass A is jumping out of the glass the most. And then Glass C, I'm liking a lot with how complex that one is. Glass B and D are not, they're really good noses. They're just, you gotta dig a lot more to get anything, in particular Glass B. Like this one, it's very subtle on the nose. What's there is good, but it's very subtle. All right, we'll think about the nose more as we go into the palate and let this whole thing develop, but let's start with Glass A on the palate. Cheers. Nice. First thing I noticed is the texture on this one is really nice. Nice and velvety. But then it's got a surprising amount of spice once you get it on your palate, and especially as you drink it down and swallow it, the spice kind of blooms up. But it's got a lot of oak, a lot of sweet oak. There's cherry. I'm getting a good amount of cherry on this palate. Again, that spice is nice and lingers. But then there's this, on the back end, like tobacco thing going on. Pretty interesting. And nice velvety smoothness to that one. So strong start. Let me get some water and then we'll move on to Glass B. All right, Glass B on the palate. Cheers. Yeah, way less spice on that, which is interesting. This one is very wood forward. So it's oak for sure, but it tends more toward like a, almost like just kind of a wood quality, which is interesting. And then there's like layers of caramel, maybe a touch of like dark chocolate. It doesn't have many fruit notes here. It really leans more in that candy bar direction. It is more subtle too. It's nice, it's solid, but it's definitely more subtle than Glass A, and it's not as velvety. It didn't punch my mouth and have that robustness in the mouth like Glass A, but it is pretty solid. All right, let's go to Glass C. Okay, vastly different. Orange peel and almost a lemon zest kind of quality to this one. And then it's got a lot of cherry and chocolate. Nice, like rich milk chocolate and cherry, almost cherry cordial, and it really tends toward that on the back end of the palate. And then there's just enough spice to keep it lingering. That's really solid, and it's definitely presenting to me right now as the most complex experience here. All right, last but not least, Glass D on the palate. Okay, that one is super easy to sip on. It's still got a little bit of spice, but man, am I feeling like I just had some grape juice. That is what the finish is to me. It's like this oaky grape juice thing going on. Very sweet, lots of cherry in there too, some solid vanilla, and a little bit of spice, but the finish there is very grape forward, which is fascinating and makes me think that might be the Eagle Rare, but again, I could be wrong. It's the beauty of a blind. It could be throwing me off in a very good way. Okay, so that's a first run through of the palette. What I'm gonna do now is go in reverse order, do some A/B testing, figure out my order, but I'm gonna fast forward through all that for you guys so it's not, an hour-long video. I'll recap that and let you know what my order is and what the winner is. All right, everybody, we're back. We've gone back and forth a bunch here, done some A/B testing. I actually felt my palate getting a little bit tired, so I had some pretzels, took a little break, and then came back. But now I have my definitive order. So in fourth place for me today is Glass D. I really do enjoy the flavors on this one. It just didn't have as much punch as the others, and I felt like it was a 1 or 2 note experience compared to the complexity of some of these others. And just like Glass B, it took more digging to get stuff out of it, especially on the nose. So that puts it in fourth place, but it's still pretty dang good. Let's see what this was. Okay. That is the Eagle Rare. Again, disclaimer, the 90 proof might be playing a a role here in how much it just lacks a little bit of punch of the others. I do really love the grape effect on this one. I always get so much grape and it's really fascinating, but it is such an easy sipper and it's pretty straightforward and not super complex. Okay, so in third place for me today, similar story as Glass D was Glass B. This one actually started to develop a little bit of like a peanut shell, peanut quality, which I enjoy, but it's so subtle on the nose, and the palate I felt like I had to dig a little bit more, and it wasn't as robust and complex as these other two. So what was Glass B? Okay, that's the Henry McKenna. I'm actually a little surprised that this beat Eagle Rare. My particular single barrel of Henry McKenna I haven't loved. Today, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It is that Heaven Hill nuttiness, caramel, vanilla, oak presence, but it's pretty subdued on this particular single barrel for me. But I'm starting to see, maybe it's opened up a little bit more. I don't know, it's changing a little bit, and I'm just among this blind. I liked it quite a bit. So still good, but very subdued. That leaves us with our last two. The two most expensive, the two more special releases, the Old Forester 1924 and the Remus Repeal VII. That makes a lot of sense. It's also just good to know that the price point and the limited availability is kind of reflected in these two being, you know, a step above. What ultimately this all came down to is, as I kept going back and forth and experiencing these, Glass A has a wonderful nose. The palate, however, started to get a little mild or I don't know if it's disappointing. It lacked a little bit of the punch over time. The first sip was really, really good, and then the subsequent sips weren't as great. But the nose is spectacular and the flavors are there. But then Glass C, the complexity just took it up another notch. And this one stayed interesting the whole time. And so, for me, the winner today was Glass C. Though I will say Glass A probably took the nose, Glass C overtook it on the palate and finish. I do really enjoy Glass A though. What is it? Let's see. Wow. What? Oh man, that's the Remus Repeal? I could have sworn that was the Old Forester. No way. No way. This is the Old Forester. Wow. I'm genuinely shocked. I really thought the interesting complexity that I was getting on Glass C was because of the high rye nature of the Remus and the blend of it. It's so many different things. The citrus notes, fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Going back to it now that I can put the actual mental what I've tasted before, it makes sense. There is more of this orange, raspberry, brown sugar thing going on. Wow. And the Remus has some of that acetone singiness that I did get on the, wow. Okay. This almost never happens to me in blinds, so this is fascinating. The Old Forester 1924 is way more complex and interesting on the palate than I had registered, even just from my review of it and from my experiences of it so far. It brings a lot to the table, and it's got good oak. This is a good bottle of whiskey. Dang. Wow. Old Forester 1924, you have shocked me. You have shocked me. And it's really good. I think that we kind of took subsequent steps up here. The Eagle Rare, pretty solid. The Henry McKenna, not my favorite, but I can acknowledge there's some good stuff there. The Remus, really nice, but somehow got boring over time. And then the Old Forester 1924. Way more interesting notes, way more interesting flavors than I remembered. That's why we do blinds. I would say Old Forester 1924. If it beats Remus Repeal VII, which I think is pretty solid, don't know if I love the $100 price point on it. I think it's pretty solid though. If the Old Forester beat that out and confused me and has lots of complexity and interesting things to present, that's pretty much all I can ask from a whiskey. Okay. I am shocked. This has been fascinating. Thanks so much for bearing with me through this experience. Wow. Okay, Old Forester 1924 is the best 10-year-old whiskey of this bunch. That's crazy. But I'm also glad. And it's a good whiskey. $115, I think you're in a solid price point given the current market. It's a 10-year-old whiskey that's very good, and I think it's worth that. Not worth much more than that, but it's pretty good. All right, everybody, that's gonna do it. I'm still in a little bit of shock, but enjoying it. Hope you all are enjoying your whiskey hunting and collecting journey. If you have tasted the 1924, let me know what you think and what your opinions are in the comments below. While you're at it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I hope to do a lot more great content for you throughout the rest of 2024 and beyond. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.